Hi everyone. In this video, we'll be looking into a game between Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen and Grandmaster Ali Rasa Firouzja from the Division 1 Grand Finale of Julius Baer Generation Cup. Let's jump right into the game. Magnus Carlsen starting with the white pieces go for 1, knight to f3. Firouzja replies with knight to f6, g3, g6, b3, bishop to g7, bishop to b2, d6, bishop to g2, e5, d3. Firouzja goes for castling, c4, a5, knight to c3, h6. Carlsen goes for castling, c6, e4, rook to e8, rook to e1, knight to a6, h3, bishop to d7, d4, e takes on d4, knight takes on d4, knight to c5, queen to c2, queen to c8, king to h2. And here Firouzja will play a discovery attack by playing knight to g4 with check. So once Carlsen captures this knight, h takes on g4, bishop takes on d4. Rook on knight to d1, bishop to g7, f3, queen to c7, queen to d2, bishop to e6, knight to e2, rook on e to d8, bishop takes on g7, king takes on g7, queen to c3 with check, f6, rook to d2, queen to e7, rook on e to d1, bishop to f7, knight to d4, rook to d7, f4, king to g8, rook to e2, a4, b4. So if you look at this position, after 29 moves into the game, Carlsen is having a slight advantage of 0.9. So the right continuation in this position for Ali Rasa Firouzja is, see here Carlsen is attacking Firouzja's knight, but the right continuation was not to move this knight but instead play just a3, continue with a3. The idea is that if Carlsen continues capturing the knight, then Firouzja can continue with b takes on c5. Here attacking the knight. If Carlsen tries to save the knight, this rook here is undefended. Carlsen can still risk this and play knight takes on c6. If you take my rook, then Carlsen will go ahead and take the queen. That will end the game. So Firouzja will have to play b takes on c6, then rook takes on d7 and queen takes on d7. So at the end of the trade, both the players would have been equal amount of material. But in the game, instead of pushing the a3, Firouzja will play knight to a6, and after this move, Carlsen's advantage increased to plus 1.4. So right continuation here for Carlsen is to play knight to c2 and rotate the knight, but instead he will go for b5, throw away his advantage. Firouzja continues with c takes on b5, knight takes on b5, rook to c8, rook on e to d2, rook takes on c4, queen to e3, d5, e5, knight to c7, knight takes on c7, rook on c takes on c7, bishop takes on d5, bishop takes on d5, rook takes on d5, rook takes on d5, rook takes on d5, queen to e6, queen to d3, queen takes on g4, e6, rook to g7, f5, g takes on f5, rook to d8 with check, king to h7, rook to d7, queen to h5 with check, king to g2, queen to g6, rook takes on g7 with check, queen takes on g7, queen to d7, f4, g4, f5, e7, queen takes on g4 with check, king to f2, queen to g3 with check, king to e2, f3 with check. So if you look at this position, after 50 moves into the game, Magnus Carlsen is having a winning advantage of plus 3.4 despite 3 points of material down. Firouzja is having 3 extra points here, but Carlsen is the one who is winning in this position. So here the right continuation for Magnus Carlsen is, he is under the check of the pawn and this pawn is threatening to promote as well. Carlsen himself have a dangerous pass pawn on e7. So the right move for Magnus Carlsen is move the king to d3, and if he continue pushing to f2, which comes with a check, then you can bring the king back to e2 and keep an eye on this promotion. But in the game, Carlsen will play king to e3, and this is a miss because after this move, there is a forced draw in this position for Ali Rasa Firouzja. He can continue with queen to e1 with check, king takes on f3, queen to f1 with check, king to e3, queen to e1 with check, king to f3, and this will continue, and there is no way Carlsen can escape from this continuous check. But Firouzja missed this trick and play f2 with check, and now Carlsen is again having the winning advantage of plus 5.2, and this time he played king to e2, and this time Firouzja is in deep trouble. Firouzja tried to continue by playing q to e5 with check, king takes on f2, q to f4 with check, king to e2, q to e4 with check, king to d2, q to f4 with check, king to c3, q to e3 with check, king to b4, q to b6 with check, king to c4, q to a6 with check, king to c5, q to a5 with check, king to d6, q to b6 with check, king to e5, q to e3 with check, king to f6, q to g5 with check, king to e6, q to g6 with check, king to d5, q to g2 with check, king to c5, q to f2 with check, king to b5, q to b2 with check, king to a5, q to c3 with check, king to b6, q to b4 with check, king to c7, q to a5 with check, king to b8, q to e5 with check, q to c7. And it was in this position after 71 moves into the game and a series of 20 checks. Ali Reza Firouzja ran out of checks and decided to resign the game to Magnus Carlsen. And Magnus Carlsen ended up winning Julius Baer Generation Cup Division 1 as well. The reason for resignation is pretty much clear. There is no more checks and there is no more stopping of this pass pawn as well. If Firouzja try to continue the match, it will be queen takes on e7 with check, and once king captures this queen, this king is too far to prevent this promotion. If king moves to g7, then it will be e8 equal to queen, and the game is over for Ali Reza Firouzja. So for saying this, Ali Reza Firouzja resigned after queen to c7.